that? Well, that was the 85th time I died. So some giant bullet drops out of the fucking sky, making itself some sort of underground fortress. At the bottom is a gun that you can use to kill your past. The fuck that means nobody really seems to know, but everybody wants to get in on it. Only problem is, there's an entire fucking army between you and it. And at the end of that army, fucking Metal Gear Solid type motherfuckers. Yeah, it's a real party down there. Enter the Gungeon comes to us from Dodge Roll, published by Devolver Digital. It's a top-down, procedurally generated, bullet hell, character action crossover flaming fucking nightmare. It pits you up against insurmountable odds with very limited resources, under the caveat that you'll acquire one or more of a wide range of just insane guns. I've had my eyes on this one for a while, and we finally get to take a look at it. At first glance, it's understandable if you compare this game to Binding of Isaac or Nuclear Throne off the cuff, but once you start getting into gameplay, you start to see where the game diverges. Rather than being a plodding, slow bullet hell like Isaac and going for a skill and inventory management directed route over Nuclear Throne's standard action bullet hell, Gungeon straddles the line between an arcade shoot-'em-up and character action gameplay. It has you picking between small selection of characters, each with their own starting loadouts and skills, and pits you up against insurmountable odds as bullets fill up your screen. So there was this one time some poor schmuck says he's gonna get himself a pizza down there. Stupid bastard came back with hot dogs. The game's big stylistic selling point is the guns, and good God, there are a lot of them. Varying firing styles, varying types of damage, just countless options to tackle rooms. While some guns are more common than others, the more rare guns seem absolutely designed to kill bosses. And before you go thinking it's a standard issue of too good to use syndrome, this game makes sure you never run into that. Basic enemies get tougher as you move further into the game, making your starting weapons with infinite ammo seem less appealing over time. The game is procedurally generated, meaning floors are rarely the same even if rooms become familiar, and loot seems more random than anything else. You'll get rooms that you've played before, but suddenly it spawns in 2 extra waves of enemies to mix up the challenge. And this is probably the biggest danger when playing the game. It's not like Isaac, where all you need to do is survive long enough to get an item that can carry you, as Northern Lion once put it. This game requires an arsenal of passive items and guns, and this is where the procedural generation can hurt. I've had several runs end on the second floor simply due to the fact that my one key opened a chest that gave me a speed upgrade, the boss gave me another weak passive, and the entire floor gave me 20 shells to spend at the shop. The procedural generation can hinder your run pretty hard. However, runs like those are incredibly rare. You just tend to remember them more than others. Is it impossible to get anywhere under those circumstances? Honestly, I'm hot garbage at the game, so I wouldn't know. I've only made it to floor 4 3 times now. To say this game is unrelenting is a war crime of an understatement. This game is flat out vindictive. You wronged it, and it's going to get you. And the lore pretty much spells that out for you, and I absolutely love it. I love these seemingly insurmountable games where the stories they tell aren't so much the game's story, but your own story of your attempts to conquer it. The character's goals run in tandem with the player. Many dudes down there who want to get down there, do the thing. And pretty much the gameplay directly translates that. The story and concepts are kept simple enough that the monitor is really the only thing separating the story of the game and the input of the player. You feel the rush of the brutally difficult gameplay as much as it shows you it. It's the 90s all over again. So I'm sitting on the floor not a foot away from the television, and it's one of those old tubes they used to tell you gave you cancer. And my mom says you keep sitting like that, you'll go blind. Fucking dumb bitch. 90s all over again seems to be a huge theme in the independent scene, but I'm happy to tell you it's not a cheap gimmick like you get out of a lot of indie games. The game doesn't just throw references to earlier games, it doesn't just make a joke about some movie or property, it's not just some homage to an earlier time. It is at its very roots an extension of the 90s, right down to the cheesy pop song that acts as the game's title screen track. Dodge Roll captured what we loved as kids and brought it howling with mad laughter into the 21st century. The Marine poses like the Doom cover, announcing the fight with a Vulcan Raven parody just before I blow his ass away with Earthworm Jim's gun and Judge Dredd's Lawgiver. And not once does it try to break the immersion and identify with the audience. It never tries to convince you it's something it's not. It's a 90s style romp of hardcore difficulty, pop culture cheese, and endless charm. Sound design is fantastic. The background music, while not something I would call thematic, is otherwise frenetic enough to help you stay in the mindset of the gameplay. Cutesy bit sounds play when you pick up items, and a satisfying snap announces when you kill an enemy. It's a game that sounds as great as it looks and plays. And there's a lot to see. Plenty of characters to meet and random events popping up. Since the game came out, I've put about 8 hours into it, but I've only recorded 6, and I really regret it, because 2 of those unrecorded hours had some amazingly hilarious stuff. Like 2 zombie nurses who healed me by smashing a jar containing a fairy over my head, all the while calling it operating. You rescue characters who join you at the breach, and even some who have yet to. Some help, and at least one sometimes opens up a room that has a shooting gallery you can compete in for prizes, and some show up in shops. The game has a fantastic amount to see.
Manhattan Police Department, what is the nature of your emergency?
There's been a robbery. This game stole my heart.
Sir, this line is for emergencies only. We're going to have to come to your house and fucking party!
I am in love with this game! The dungeon is colorful and foreboding, with architecture reeking of ancient tombs. Lighting is pseudo-dynamic with torches, and the rooms are filled with tables, pots, armor, all sorts of crap, and it can all be smashed. You can flip tables for temporary cover, and even enemies will break away from their packs to create their own cover. Some items even give you special table flipping techniques. Different floors have different and beautifully designed themes, and everything is a fucking gun pun. There's an ass load of lore that justifies and explains the theming, and even weapons can have lore that hint at a larger world and long dead heroes, and the list just keeps going and going. A shrine to a D20 god has you rolling for random game-changing effects. Like one time I got a health upgrade and all it did to make the game harder was take away my blanks. The game builds a world much in the same way Dark Souls does, and they do it expertly. I did, however, warn Dodgerel that if they didn't have a YV parody boss named Trigonometry, that I'd be slightly disappointed. And now they will feel my slight disappointment. Patch it, fools! There is simply too much going on in the game to talk about in any format that isn't just geeking out over it with friends. There's countless things to discover and even more to speculate on. Simply put, it's a hardcore top-down bullet hell character action procedurally generated nightmarescape. You have limited resources and skills, and you have to obtain more by the skin of your teeth in the hopes that you can conquer a game that truly puts all your skills to the test. Definitely worth your time, and it's a fantastic value proposition. If you haven't tried it yet, go down to your friend's house and beat them until they let you, then go back home and fucking buy it. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves.